Hey guys! Tonight we're diving into a story that's as old as civilization itself, literally. Imagine yourself walking through the bustling streets of an ancient Mesopotamian city. The air is thick with the scent of baked bread and clay. The sound of merchants haggling over textiles fills your ears. And somewhere nearby, a scribe is scratching cuneiform symbols onto a damp tablet. It's a world that feels both familiar and utterly alien. But here's the twist. These ancient people who gave us writing, the wheel, and even the concept of time also invented something far more relatable. Board games. Yes, the same kind of games we pull out during family holidays or lazy Sunday afternoons. Now, before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me where you're watching from and what time it is in your corner of the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Picture yourself in the heart of Mesopotamia, a region nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, often called the cradle of civilization. This is where humanity first began to settle down, grow crops, and build cities. The people here were pioneers of just about everything: agriculture, architecture, law, and, yes, leisure. You might think that life in such an ancient time was all work and no play, but you'd be wrong. Even thousands of years ago, people needed to unwind. Daily life in Mesopotamia was a careful balance of work, worship, and relaxation. Farmers toiled in the fields, scribes documented trade agreements, and priests performed rituals to appease the gods. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and the heat of the day began to fade, people gathered to relax. Some told stories, others sang songs, and a lucky few sat down to play games. These weren't just any games, though. Mesopotamians didn't have shelves full of glossy board games like we do today. Their games were simpler but no less engaging. They used clay and stone to craft game boards, and the rules were often passed down orally. Some games were purely for fun, while others had deeper meanings tied to religion and fate. Imagine a scribe leaning over a small rectangular game board etched with intricate patterns. His opponent, perhaps a merchant who had just finished a long day of haggling in the market, carefully rolls a set of dice-like objects made from bone. The game they're playing might be the royal game of one of the oldest known board games in history. The royal game of wasn't just a way to pass the time. It was a reflection of Mesopotamian culture. The game's design and gameplay hinted at themes of strategy, chance, and even destiny. Historians believe it was popular among all classes of society, from kings to commoners. The fact that we still have physical evidence of this game, beautifully crafted boards and pieces, speaks to its importance. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we dive into the specifics of the royal game of and other ancient pastimes, it's worth pausing to consider the bigger picture. Why did these early civilizations value leisure so much? After all, life in ancient Mesopotamia wasn't exactly easy. The rivers flooded unpredictably, wars were frequent, and diseases could sweep through a city without warning. Yet, despite these challenges, the Mesopotamians made time for play. It's a reminder that humans, no matter the era, have always sought moments of joy and connection. Whether it's a scribe rolling dice in 2500 BCE or you pulling out a deck of cards in 2025, the act of playing a game is timeless. And, as we'll discover tonight, the Mesopotamians were true pioneers of this universal human experience.
As you wander through the streets of an ancient Mesopotamian city, you notice something. Life here is remarkably organized. The streets are lined with mud brick houses, ziggurats tower in the distance, and canals crisscross the land, feeding the lush fields of barley and wheat. But in the midst of all this structure and purpose, there's something else. An unmistakable sense that these people knew how to enjoy themselves. Leisure wasn't just a luxury in Mesopotamia, it was an essential part of life. After all, what's the point of inventing civilization if you can't kick back and enjoy it every now and then? The Mesopotamians understood this, and their approach to leisure reveals a lot about their culture. For one thing, leisure was closely tied to class. If you were a wealthy merchant or a member of the royal court, you had more free time to enjoy games, music, and storytelling. But even commoners found ways to relax after a hard day's work. Farmers might gather around a fire to share stories, while children played simple games with sticks and stones. And then there were the priests. For them, leisure often took on a spiritual dimension. They believed that games could be a way to connect with the gods, a form of divination that revealed the will of the divine. It's a fascinating idea, isn't it? That something as simple as rolling dice could hold cosmic significance. But leisure in Mesopotamia wasn't just about spirituality or class. It was also about mental well-being. Life in Mesopotamia could be stressful. The rivers that provided life-giving water could also bring devastating floods. Wars between city-states were common, and diseases often swept through the population. In such a precarious world, taking time to relax and enjoy life wasn't just a luxury, it was a necessity. Historians still argue whether leisure in Mesopotamia was primarily a way to escape the hardships of life or a deeper expression of their cultural values. Maybe it was both. What we do know is that the Mesopotamians saw leisure as a vital part of life, one that was worth investing time and resources into. Take the royal game of Ur, for example. This wasn't just a casual pastime, it was a carefully crafted experience. The game board itself was a work of art, often made from materials like wood, shell, and lapis lazuli. The pieces were intricately carved, and the rules required a mix of strategy and luck. Playing the game wasn't just about winning, it was about engaging in a ritual that connected you to your community and perhaps the cosmos. But leisure in Mesopotamia wasn't limited to board games. Music and dance were also popular forms of entertainment. Archaeologists have uncovered ancient instruments like lyres and flutes, and some cuneiform tablets even contain instructions for songs. Imagine a group of musicians playing a lively tune while others danced around a fire. It's a scene that feels surprisingly modern, doesn't it? And then there were the storytellers. Mesopotamia was a land of epic tales, from the adventures of Gilgamesh to the myths of the gods. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were a way to pass down history, teach moral lessons, and connect with the divine. Listening to a storyteller weave a tale of heroism and tragedy was as much a part of leisure as playing a game or enjoying music. But let's circle back to the games, because they're the real stars of tonight's story. The Mesopotamians didn't just play games for fun. They played them to connect with each other, with their culture, and with their gods. It's a reminder that leisure, even in its simplest forms, can be deeply meaningful. So, as you imagine yourself walking through the streets of an ancient Mesopotamian city, take a moment to appreciate the balance these people struck between work and play. They understood that life was about more than just survival. It was about finding joy, building connections, and creating something that would last.
As the Mesopotamian sun dips lower in the sky, casting long shadows over the bustling streets, you find yourself drawn to a curious sight. A group of people gathered around a small, rectangular board. Their faces are intent, their movements deliberate. You step closer and realize you're witnessing something remarkable: the first board games in human history. It's hard to imagine a time before games existed, isn't it? Today, we take them for granted, whether it's chess, Monopoly, or a quick round of Uno. But the Mesopotamians were the true trailblazers. inventing the concept of structured play thousands of years ago. These weren't just idle distractions, they were carefully designed experiences, blending strategy, luck, and even a touch of the divine. The first physical evidence of board games comes from Mesopotamia, specifically the royal game of Archaeologists unearthed beautifully crafted board games in royal tombs dating back to around 2600 BCE. Imagine the thrill of discovering these ancient artifacts, a tangible link to a pastime that has survived millennia. The boards were small, portable, and often made from precious materials like wood, shell, and lapis lazuli. But what did these games look like? The royal game of for instance, featured a rectangular board divided into squares and triangles. It was a race game where players moved their pieces along the board based on the roll of dice-like objects. The goal was to get all your pieces to the end of the track before your opponent. Simple, right? But don't let the simplicity fool you. This game was anything but mindless. Historians believe the royal game of required a mix of strategy and luck. Players had to decide which pieces to move and when, balancing risk and reward. It wasn't just about rolling dice, it was about outthinking your opponent. And here's the kicker. Some scholars argue that the game also had a spiritual dimension. The roll of the dice might have been seen as a way to divine the will of the gods, adding an extra layer of meaning to the gameplay. But the royal game of wasn't the only board game in Mesopotamia. Other games have been uncovered, though their rules remain a mystery. Imagine trying to piece together the mechanics of a game from a few scattered artifacts. It's like trying to figure out how to play Monopoly with just the board and no instructions. Still, the existence of these games tells us something important. The Mesopotamians valued play. They understood that games weren't just a way to pass the time, they were a way to connect with each other, with their culture, and perhaps even with the cosmos. And it wasn't just adults who played. Children in Mesopotamia had their own games, often simpler versions of the ones their parents enjoyed. They might have played with sticks and stones, creating makeshift boards in the dirt. These games weren't just fun, they were a way for kids to learn important skills like strategy, patience, and social interaction. But let's not forget the artisans who crafted these games. Making a game board wasn't just a matter of practicality, it was an art form. The boards were often intricately decorated, featuring geometric patterns and symbolic designs. The pieces, too, were works of art, carved from materials like bone, ivory, and stone. Imagine the time and effort that went into creating these objects, each one a testament to the Mesopotamians' love of beauty and craftsmanship. And then there's the marketplace. Picture yourself wandering through an ancient Mesopotamian market, the air filled with the scent of spices and the sound of merchants shouting their wares. Among the stalls selling textiles and pottery, you might find a vendor offering game boards and pieces. These weren't just toys, they were treasures, sought after by people from all walks of life. It's fascinating to think about how games brought people together in ancient Mesopotamia. Whether you were a king, a merchant, or a farmer, sitting down to play a game was a shared experience, a moment of connection in a world that could often feel unpredictable and chaotic. So, as you imagine yourself standing in that ancient marketplace, watching people play the royal game of take a moment to appreciate the legacy of these early board games. They weren't just the first of their kind, they were the foundation of a tradition that has survived thousands of years.
The royal game of wasn't just a pastime. It was a cultural phenomenon. Its significance went beyond entertainment, serving as a reflection of Mesopotamian values and beliefs. But how did a simple board game manage to embed itself so deeply into the fabric of society?
To answer that, we need to look at how games like these intersected with religion, social structure, and even the afterlife. One of the most fascinating aspects of the royal game of Ur is its connection to divination. In Mesopotamian culture, the gods were believed to have a hand in every aspect of life, from the outcome of wars to the success of a harvest. It's no surprise, then, that games were seen as a way to communicate with the divine. The roll of the dice wasn't just a random event. It was thought to reveal the will of the gods. Imagine a priest or a noble sitting down to play the royal game of Ur, not just for fun, but to seek guidance. Should they go to war? Should they invest in a new trade route? The outcome of the game might influence their decisions. This blending of play and spirituality is a reminder that in Mesopotamia, the line between the mundane and the sacred was often blurred. But the game wasn't just for priests and nobles. It was also a popular pastime among ordinary people. Archaeologists have found game boards in a variety of settings, from royal tombs to humble homes. This suggests that the royal game of Ur was a shared cultural experience, enjoyed by people from all walks of life. And speaking of royal tombs, let's talk about the role of games in the afterlife. The Mesopotamians believed in an underworld, a shadowy realm where the spirits of the dead resided. To prepare for this journey, the deceased were often buried with items they might need in the afterlife, including food, tools, and, yes, game boards. The inclusion of games in burial practices tells us a lot about their cultural importance. It suggests that games weren't just a way to pass the time. They were seen as essential, even in the afterlife. Perhaps they were thought to provide comfort or entertainment in the underworld, or maybe they were seen as a way to appease the gods. But let's not forget the social aspect of these games. Sitting down to play the royal game of Ur wasn't just about strategy and luck. It was also about connection. Whether you were playing a king playing with a visiting diplomat or a merchant challenging a friend in the marketplace, the game created a space for interaction and camaraderie. This social dimension of gaming is something we can all relate to. Think about the last time you played a game with friends or family. It wasn't just about winning, was it? It was about the shared experience, the laughter, the banter, the memories. The same was true for the Mesopotamians. And it wasn't just adults who played. Children in Mesopotamia had their own games, often simpler versions of the ones their parents enjoyed. These games weren't just fun. They were a way for kids to learn important skills like strategy, patience, and social interaction. But there's another layer to this story, one that speaks to the enduring legacy of Mesopotamian games. As the centuries passed and Mesopotamian culture spread, so too did their games. The royal game of Ur, for example, influenced gaming traditions in neighboring regions like Egypt and Persia. In fact, some historians believe that elements of the royal game of Ur can be seen in later games like Senet in ancient Egypt and even backgammon, which is still played today. It's incredible to think that a game invented thousands of years ago could have such a lasting impact. So, as we wrap up this journey through the world of Mesopotamian board games, take a moment to appreciate their legacy. These weren't just the first board games. They were the foundation of a tradition that has endured for millennia. The next time you sit down to play a game, whether it's chess, Monopoly, or something else entirely, remember the Mesopotamians. They were the pioneers of play, the inventors of leisure, and the creators of a tradition that connects us all. And with that, we've reached the end of tonight's story. If you enjoyed this journey through the past, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And as always, let me know your thoughts in the comments. What's your favorite board game? And how do you think it compares to the games of ancient Mesopotamia? Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and keep exploring.
As the story of Mesopotamian leisure unfolds, it becomes clear that their games and pastimes were just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
a puzzle that reveals the ingenuity and complexity of one of the world's first great civilizations. Beyond board games, Mesopotamians were innovators in nearly every aspect of life, from architecture to writing, from science to art. Leisure, in many ways, was a reflection of their broader achievements. The role of leisure in urban life. Mesopotamia was a land of firsts, the first cities, the first written language, and some of the first organized governments. But what made these achievements possible? The answer lies in their ability to create a society that balanced work with rest, innovation with tradition, and survival with joy. In the great cities of Uruk, and Babylon, life was bustling. Farmers brought their grain to market, scribes recorded transactions, and priests performed rituals in towering ziggurats. But even in the midst of such activity, leisure found its place. Public spaces like marketplaces and city squares became hubs of social activity, where people gathered not just to trade goods, but to share stories, play games, and enjoy music. This sense of community was vital in a world that could often be harsh and unpredictable. The Tigris and Euphrates rivers, while life-giving, were prone to sudden floods. Wars between city-states were common, and disease could spread quickly in densely populated areas. Leisure activities, whether a game of or a night of storytelling, offered a much-needed escape from these challenges. Music, dance, and storytelling. While board games like the royal game of have left behind physical evidence, other forms of leisure, music, dance, and storytelling, are harder to reconstruct. Yet we know from cuneiform tablets and artistic depictions that these activities were central to Mesopotamian life. Music played a particularly important role. Archaeologists have uncovered ancient instruments, including lyres, harps, and flutes, some of which have been reconstructed and played in modern times. These instruments were used in a variety of settings, from religious ceremonies to private gatherings. Imagine the sound of a Mesopotamian lyre filling the air as people danced, sang, or simply listened in quiet appreciation. Dance, too, was a popular form of entertainment. While we don't have detailed descriptions of Mesopotamian dances, artistic depictions suggest that they were often performed in groups, perhaps as part of religious rituals or communal celebrations. Dance was likely accompanied by music and might have included symbolic movements meant to honor the gods or tell a story. And then there was storytelling, the heart and soul of Mesopotamian culture. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the oldest known works of literature, is a testament to the power of stories in this ancient world. These tales weren't just entertainment. They were a way to explore universal themes like friendship, mortality, and the search for meaning. Storytellers, whether professional bards or family elders, were highly respected for their ability to bring these narratives to life. Leisure and innovation. It's worth noting that leisure in Mesopotamia wasn't just about relaxation, it was also a driver of innovation. The same creativity that gave rise to the royal game of also fueled advancements in other areas. For example, the Mesopotamians were pioneers in mathematics, astronomy, and engineering, fields that required a blend of logic, imagination, and problem-solving skills. Board games in particular may have served as a kind of training ground for these skills. Games like the royal game of required players to think strategically, anticipate their opponent's moves, and adapt to changing circumstances, all abilities that would have been valuable in other areas of life. Even the act of crafting boards and pieces was an exercise in innovation. Artisans experimented with different materials and designs, creating objects that were not only functional, but also beautiful. This attention to detail reflects a broader Mesopotamian appreciation for craftsmanship, whether in the form of a board game, a clay tablet, or a monumental ziggurat. The legacy of Mesopotamian leisure.
As we look back on the leisure activities of ancient Mesopotamia, it's clear that they were more than just a way to pass the time. They were a reflection of the values, beliefs, and aspirations of a civilization that laid the foundation for so much of what we take for granted today. The royal game of for example, wasn't just a game. It was a microcosm of Mesopotamian life, blending strategy, luck, and spirituality. Music and storytelling weren't just forms of entertainment. They were ways to connect with the divine, preserve history, and explore the human experience. And perhaps that's the most remarkable thing about Mesopotamian leisure, its timelessness. Thousands of years later, we're still playing games, telling stories, and listening to music. The specifics may have changed, but the essence remains the same. Leisure, in all its forms, continues to be a way for us to connect with ourselves, with each other, and with something greater than ourselves. So the next time you roll a pair of dice, listen to a song, or lose yourself in a good story, take a moment to remember the Mesopotamians. They were the pioneers of play, the inventors of leisure, and the creators of a tradition that has endured for millennia.
As we continue to explore the rich tapestry of Mesopotamian life, it becomes clear that their contributions to leisure and culture were deeply interconnected with their advancements in science, religion, and society. The Mesopotamians didn't just play games or tell stories. They built the very frameworks that allowed these activities to flourish, leaving an indelible mark on human history. Games as a reflection of Mesopotamian society. Board games like the royal game of weren't isolated phenomena. They were deeply embedded in the social and cultural fabric of Mesopotamian life. The rules of these games often mirrored the complexities of the world around them. For example, the element of luck, represented by dice or similar objects, might have symbolized the unpredictability of life in a land shaped by the whims of rivers and gods. At the same time, the strategic aspects of these games reflected the importance of planning and foresight in Mesopotamian society. Whether you were a farmer deciding when to plant your crops, a merchant plotting a trade route, or a ruler preparing for war, the ability to think ahead was crucial. In this sense, games weren't just a form of entertainment. They were a way to practice the skills needed for survival and success. Even the materials used to create game boards and pieces reflected the social hierarchy of Mesopotamia. Wealthy individuals might have owned elaborate boards made from precious materials like lapis lazuli and ivory, while ordinary people likely played on simpler versions made from wood or clay. This distinction highlights the ways in which leisure activities could both transcend and reinforce social boundaries. The role of religion in leisure. As we've seen, Mesopotamian games often had a spiritual dimension. But this connection between leisure and religion extended beyond board games. Many forms of leisure, from music to dance to storytelling, were closely tied to religious rituals and festivals. For example, the Akitu festival, an annual celebration of the new year that was held in honor of the god Marduk. This multi-day event included processions, sacrifices, and the reenactment of myths, but it also featured music, dance, and feasting. For the people of Mesopotamia, these activities weren't just ways to celebrate. They were acts of devotion, ways to honor the gods and ensure the prosperity of the community. Even storytelling had a religious aspect. Many of the great Mesopotamian myths, such as the Epic of Gilgamesh, were deeply intertwined with their beliefs about the gods, the afterlife, and the nature of humanity. These stories weren't just entertainment. They were a way to explore and understand the divine. Leisure in the context of daily life. While religious festivals and grand celebrations were important, much of Mesopotamian leisure took place in more ordinary settings. After a long day of work, people might gather in their homes or in public spaces to relax and socialize.
Children played games with sticks and stones, while adults might enjoy a game of or listen to a storyteller recount a familiar tale. These moments of leisure were more than just a break from work. They were a way to strengthen social bonds. In a society where cooperation was essential for survival, activities that brought people together were highly valued. Whether it was a shared meal, a communal game, or a group performance, leisure helped to create a sense of community and belonging. The enduring legacy of Mesopotamian leisure. As we look back on the leisure activities of ancient Mesopotamia, it's impossible not to be struck by their timelessness. The games they played, the stories they told, and the music they created continue to resonate with us today. In many ways, they remind us that the desire for connection, creativity, and joy is a fundamental part of what it means to be human. The royal game of for example, has been rediscovered and played by people all over the world, thanks to the efforts of historians and archaeologists. Modern musicians have reconstructed Mesopotamian instruments and performed ancient melodies, bringing the sounds of the past to life. And the Epic of Gilgamesh, once etched into clay tablets, is now studied and celebrated as one of the great works of world literature. But perhaps the most enduring legacy of Mesopotamian leisure is the way it continues to inspire us. Their innovations in games, music, and storytelling laid the groundwork for countless traditions that followed. Every time we roll a pair of dice, hum a tune, or lose ourselves in a good story, we're participating in a tradition that began thousands of years ago in the land between the rivers. Final thoughts. As we conclude our journey through the world of Mesopotamian leisure, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on what we've learned. The Mesopotamians weren't just the inventors of games or the creators of myths. They were pioneers of culture, visionaries who understood the importance of balancing work and play, tradition and innovation, the sacred and the everyday. Their legacy is a reminder that leisure isn't just a luxury, it's a vital part of what makes us human. It's a way to connect with each other, to express our creativity, and to find meaning in a complex and often unpredictable world. And in that sense, the Mesopotamians weren't so different from us at all. So the next time you sit down to play a game, tell a story, or listen to a song, take a moment to remember the people who started it all. The Mesopotamians may be long gone, but their spirit lives on, in every roll of the dice, every pluck of a string, and every word of a story told around a fire.
Now that we've explored the cultural and social dimensions of Mesopotamian leisure, let's delve into how their innovations in other areas of life, science, technology, and governance, shape the world we live in today. Mesopotamia wasn't just the birthplace of board games and storytelling. It was the cradle of civilization itself. Their advancements in agriculture, writing, mathematics, and law created the foundation for many aspects of modern society. The agricultural revolution and its impact on leisure. One of Mesopotamia's most significant contributions to human history was the development of agriculture. The fertile lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers allowed the Mesopotamians to grow surplus crops, which in turn supported larger, more stable populations. This shift from a nomadic lifestyle to settled farming communities was revolutionary, not just because it ensured a steady food supply, but because it created the conditions for leisure to flourish. With surplus food came specialization. Not everyone had to farm, which meant that some people could dedicate their time to other pursuits, such as crafting, trading, or even playing games. This division of labor allowed for the creation of a complex society where leisure wasn't just a luxury for the elite, it became a shared experience that enriched the lives of all. The agricultural calendar also influenced the rhythm of leisure activities. Festivals and games were often tied to the seasons, celebrating the planting and harvesting of crops.
These communal events reinforced social bonds and provided a sense of continuity and purpose in a world shaped by the cycles of nature. Writing, the birth of recorded leisure. Another groundbreaking Mesopotamian invention was writing. The development of cuneiform script around 3100 BCE transformed the way humans communicated, recorded information, and shared stories. Initially used for administrative purposes, such as tracking grain supplies and trade transactions, writing soon expanded into other realms, including literature, religion, and education. The written word allowed Mesopotamians to preserve their myths, laws, and histories for future generations. The Epic of Gilgamesh, for example, would never have survived without the invention of writing. This ancient tale, inscribed on clay tablets, is not only one of the earliest examples of literature, but also a testament to the power of storytelling as a form of leisure and cultural expression. Writing also played a role in the creation and dissemination of games. Rules for games like the royal game of Ur were likely passed down orally at first, but as writing became more widespread, these rules could be recorded and standardized. This ensured that the games could be played consistently across generations and regions, contributing to their enduring popularity. Mathematics and astronomy, tools for play and progress. The Mesopotamians were also pioneers in mathematics and astronomy, fields that had practical applications in agriculture, architecture, and governance. But these disciplines weren't just about solving problems. They also had a playful, creative side. For example, Mesopotamian mathematicians developed a base 60 numbering system, which is why we still divide an hour into 60 minutes and a circle into 360 degrees. This system was used not only for practical calculations, but also for games and puzzles that challenged players to think logically and strategically. Astronomy, too, had a dual purpose. While it was essential for predicting the flooding of rivers and determining the best times for planting and harvesting, it also inspired a sense of wonder and curiosity. The Mesopotamians observed the movements of the stars and planets, creating detailed records that laid the groundwork for modern astronomy. These celestial observations may have influenced the design of certain games, as well as the myths and stories that were shared during leisure time. Law and order, creating space for leisure. The Mesopotamians understood that a stable society was essential for the pursuit of leisure. Without laws to regulate behavior and resolve disputes, life would have been too chaotic for people to enjoy games, music, or storytelling. This is why the Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest known legal codes, was such an important achievement. The Code of Hammurabi not only established rules for trade, property, and personal conduct, but also reflected the values and priorities of Mesopotamian society. For example, it included provisions to protect workers and ensure fair treatment, which may have contributed to a more balanced and harmonious community. In such an environment, people could focus not just on survival, but also on creativity, innovation, and leisure. The spread of Mesopotamian culture. As Mesopotamian culture spread to neighboring regions through trade and conquest, so too did their innovations in leisure. The royal game of Ur, for instance, influenced the development of similar games in Egypt, Persia, and beyond. Likewise, Mesopotamian myths and stories found their way into the oral traditions of other cultures, blending with local legends to create new narratives. This cross-cultural exchange highlights the universality of leisure. No matter where or when people lived, they found ways to play, celebrate, and connect. The Mesopotamians may have been among the first to formalize these activities, but their influence can be seen in the games, stories, and traditions of countless civilizations that followed. The timelessness of Mesopotamian achievements. As we reflect on the legacy of Mesopotamia, it's clear that their contributions to leisure were part of a much larger story, a story of human ingenuity, resilience, and creativity. From the invention of writing to the development of complex games, the Mesopotamians laid the groundwork for many of the things we enjoy today. Their achievements remind us that leisure isn't just a way to pass the time. It's a vital part of what makes us human. It's a way to explore our creativity, connect with others, and find meaning in the world around us. And in that sense, the Mesopotamians weren't just the pioneers of play. They were the architects of a tradition that continues to inspire and unite us.
As we continue our journey through the world of Mesopotamia, it becomes increasingly clear that their influence extended far beyond their borders and far beyond their time. The Mesopotamians not only shaped their own society, but also laid the foundation for cultural, scientific, and intellectual traditions that spread across the ancient world and continue to resonate today. In this section, we'll explore how Mesopotamian innovations and ideas influenced neighboring civilizations and how their legacy persists in modern culture. The spread of Mesopotamian ideas. The civilizations of Sumer, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians were located at the crossroads of the ancient world. This strategic position allowed them to exchange goods, ideas, and cultural practices with neighboring regions, including Egypt, the Indus Valley, and later Greece and Rome. Through trade routes and diplomatic exchanges, Mesopotamian innovations in writing, mathematics, law, and art spread far and wide. Let's examine some of these influences. Writing systems. The invention of cuneiform writing was a monumental achievement, and its influence can be seen in other writing systems that developed later. For example, the Phoenician alphabet, which emerged much later, was inspired by earlier systems of writing, including cuneiform. The Phoenician alphabet would go on to influence Greek, Latin, and eventually modern alphabets. Mesopotamian scribes were also responsible for creating the first libraries, such as the famous library of Ashurbanipal in Nineveh. These collections of clay tablets preserved knowledge and stories that would inspire later civilizations. Mathematics and astronomy. Mesopotamian mathematical concepts, such as their base 60 system, were adopted and adapted by other cultures. The Babylonians' advanced understanding of geometry and algebra was later built upon by Greek mathematicians like Pythagoras and Euclid. Their astronomical observations also had a lasting impact. Mesopotamian star charts and calendars influenced the development of astronomy in ancient Egypt and Greece. The division of time into 60-second minutes and 60-minute hours, as well as the 360-degree circle, are direct legacies of Mesopotamian mathematics. Law and governance. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest written legal codes, served as a model for later legal systems. Its emphasis on justice, fairness, and the rule of law resonated with other ancient civilizations and continues to influence modern legal thought. Religion and mythology. Mesopotamian myths and religious ideas also left a deep imprint on neighboring cultures. Stories like the Epic of Gilgamesh, which explored themes of mortality, friendship, and the search for meaning, were echoed in later mythologies. For example, the story of a great flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh bears striking similarities to the biblical story of Noah's Ark, suggesting a shared cultural memory. Many of the gods and goddesses of Mesopotamia, such as Ishtar, goddess of love and war, and Shamash, god of the sun and justice, influenced the pantheons of other ancient cultures. Mesopotamian innovations in everyday life. Beyond their intellectual and cultural achievements, the Mesopotamians also made practical contributions that shaped daily life in the ancient world. Irrigation and agriculture. Mesopotamian engineers developed sophisticated irrigation systems that allowed them to control the flow of water from the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. These systems not only supported agriculture, but also served as a model for water management in other regions. The plow, another Mesopotamian invention, revolutionized farming and increased agricultural productivity. This innovation spread to neighboring civilizations, enabling them to support larger populations. Urban planning and architecture. The cities of Mesopotamia were among the first planned urban centers in history. They featured ziggurats, temples, markets, and residential areas, all organized to meet the needs of a growing population. Mesopotamian architectural techniques, such as the use of mud bricks and arches, influenced building practices in Egypt, Persia, and beyond. Trade and commerce.
Mesopotamians were skilled traders who established extensive networks that connected them with regions as far away as the Indus Valley and the Mediterranean. They developed systems of weights and measures, as well as the first known forms of currency, to facilitate trade. These innovations in commerce laid the groundwork for the complex economies of later civilizations. The modern legacy of Mesopotamia. Even though the civilizations of Mesopotamia faded thousands of years ago, their influence is still felt today in countless ways. Cultural heritage. The stories, myths, and artistic traditions of Mesopotamia continue to inspire modern literature, art, and film. For example, the Epic of Gilgamesh has been reinterpreted in novels, plays, and even graphic novels. Its themes of friendship, mortality, and the search for meaning remain as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. Language and writing. The very concept of writing, which began in Mesopotamia, is one of the most important legacies of this ancient civilization. Without their invention of cuneiform, the development of written communication and, by extension, the preservation of knowledge would have been delayed by centuries. Scientific foundations. Modern science owes a debt to Mesopotamian mathematicians and astronomers. Their methods of observation, calculation, and record-keeping laid the groundwork for scientific inquiry. Legal systems. The principles of justice and fairness enshrined in the Code of Hammurabi continue to resonate in modern legal systems. The idea that laws should be written down and accessible to all is a cornerstone of democratic governance. Final reflection. The story of Mesopotamia is, in many ways, the story of humanity itself. It's a story of innovation, resilience, and creativity, a story of people who looked at the world around them and found ways to make it better, more meaningful, and more connected. From their games and stories to their scientific discoveries and legal codes, the Mesopotamians left a legacy that continues to shape our world. They remind us that even in the face of challenges, humans have an extraordinary capacity for ingenuity and collaboration. As we reflect on their achievements, we're reminded of the timelessness of human curiosity and the enduring power of culture to bring people together. The Mesopotamians may be long gone, but their spirit lives on in every story we tell, every game we play, and every question we ask about the world around us. The spread of Mesopotamian culture. As Mesopotamian culture spread to neighboring regions through trade and conquest, so did their innovations in leisure. The royal game of for instance, influenced the development of similar games in Egypt, Persia, and beyond. Likewise, Mesopotamian myths and stories found their way into the oral traditions of other cultures, blending with local legends to create new narratives. This cross-cultural exchange highlights the universality of leisure. No matter where or when people lived, they found ways to play, celebrate, and connect. The Mesopotamians may have been among the first to formalize these activities, but their influence can be seen in the games, stories, and traditions of countless civilizations that followed. The timelessness of Mesopotamian achievements. As we reflect on the legacy of Mesopotamia, it's clear that their contributions to leisure were part of a much larger story, a story of human ingenuity, resilience, and creativity. From the invention of writing to the development of complex games, the Mesopotamians laid the groundwork for many of the things we enjoy today. They remind us that leisure isn't just a way to pass the time. It's a vital part of what makes us human. It's a way to explore our creativity, connect with others, and find meaning in the world around us. And in that sense, the Mesopotamians weren't just the pioneers of play. They were the architects of a tradition that continues to inspire and unite us.
As we continue to explore the legacy of Mesopotamia, we begin to see how their achievements were not isolated, but part of a broader web of influence that shaped the ancient and modern worlds. Beyond their immediate contributions to culture, science, and governance, Mesopotamia also played a key role in fostering connections between civilizations, creating a shared foundation for human progress. In this section, we'll dive deeper into how Mesopotamian ideas spread across the ancient world, examine their role in the development of later empires, and reflect on the enduring significance of their innovations. Mesopotamia as a cultural crossroads. Mesopotamia's geographical position, situated between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and at the intersection of major trade routes, made it a natural hub for cultural exchange. This strategic location allowed Mesopotamians to interact with neighboring civilizations, such as the Egyptians, the Hittites, the Elamites, and the Indus Valley people. Through these interactions, Mesopotamian innovations and ideas spread far beyond their borders, influencing the development of other cultures in ways both direct and subtle. Trade networks. Mesopotamians were skilled traders who established connections with regions as far away as the Mediterranean, the Arabian Peninsula, and the Indus Valley. Goods such as textiles, metals, and agricultural products were exchanged, but so were ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. For example, Mesopotamian cylinder seals, small, intricately carved objects used to mark ownership or authenticate documents, were highly prized and found their way into distant lands. These seals weren't just practical tools, they were also works of art, showcasing the creativity and craftsmanship of Mesopotamian artisans. Technological diffusion. Mesopotamian technologies, such as the wheel, the plow, and advanced irrigation systems, were adopted and adapted by neighboring civilizations. The wheel, in particular, revolutionized transportation and agriculture, enabling societies to transport goods more efficiently and cultivate larger areas of land. Cultural exchange. Mesopotamian myths, religious practices, and artistic styles also influenced neighboring cultures. For instance, the story of the Great Flood in the Epic of Gilgamesh likely inspired similar narratives in other traditions, including the biblical account of Noah's Ark. Similarly, Mesopotamian cultural concepts, such as the idea of a pantheon of gods with human-like qualities, were echoed in the mythologies of the Greeks, Romans, and other ancient peoples. The influence of Mesopotamia on later empires. The legacy of Mesopotamia didn't end with the fall of its cities and kingdoms. Instead, its ideas and innovations were absorbed and built upon by later empires, ensuring their continued relevance for centuries to come. The Persian Empire. When the Persian Empire rose to power in the 6th century BCE, it inherited much of the cultural and administrative infrastructure of Mesopotamia. The Persians adopted Mesopotamian practices in governance, architecture, and religion, blending them with their own traditions to create a vast and enduring empire. For example, the Persians continued the Mesopotamian tradition of monumental architecture, constructing impressive structures such as Persepolis, which drew inspiration from earlier ziggurats and palaces. The Greeks and Romans. Greek scholars, including Herodotus and Xenophon, were fascinated by Mesopotamian culture and often wrote about its history and achievements. Greek mathematicians and astronomers, such as Ptolemy, built on the foundations laid by Mesopotamian scientists, further advancing our understanding of the natural world. The Romans, too, were influenced by Mesopotamian innovations, particularly in the fields of engineering and law. Roman aqueducts, for example, can trace their origins back to the sophisticated irrigation systems of Mesopotamia. The Islamic Golden Age. During the Islamic Golden Age, 8th to 13th centuries CE, scholars in the Abbasid Caliphate translated and preserved many Mesopotamian texts, including works on mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. These texts played a crucial role in the development of science and philosophy in the Islamic world, and later in medieval Europe. The city of Baghdad, founded near the ancient Mesopotamian city of Babylon, became a center of learning and culture, continuing the region's legacy as a hub of intellectual activity. Mesopotamia's lessons for the modern world. As we reflect on the enduring legacy of Mesopotamia, it's worth considering what their achievements can teach us about the challenges and opportunities we face today. Sustainability and adaptation. Mesopotamians were pioneers in managing natural resources,
developing irrigation systems to harness the power of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. But their reliance on these systems also made them vulnerable to environmental changes, such as soil salination and shifting river patterns. Their story serves as a reminder of the importance of sustainable resource management and the need to adapt to changing environmental conditions, lessons that are especially relevant in the face of modern climate change. The power of innovation. From the invention of writing to the creation of complex legal systems, Mesopotamians demonstrated the transformative power of human ingenuity. Their ability to solve problems, think creatively, and collaborate across communities laid the foundation for many of the advancements we enjoy today. In a world that continues to face complex challenges, the Mesopotamian spirit of innovation offers a powerful example of what we can achieve when we work together. The value of culture and leisure. Mesopotamians understood that culture and leisure were not luxuries, but essential aspects of a thriving society. Their games, music, stories, and festivals brought people together, fostering a sense of community and shared identity. In our fast-paced, technology-driven world, it's easy to overlook the importance of leisure and cultural expression. Yet the Mesopotamians remind us that these activities aren't just enjoyable, they're vital to our well-being and our humanity. Final reflection. The story of Mesopotamia is a story of firsts. The first cities, the first written system, the first legal codes. But it's also a story of connection, of how one civilization's ideas can ripple outward, shaping the course of history and inspiring generations to come. As we continue to uncover the mysteries of Mesopotamia, we're reminded of the profound impact that this ancient civilization had on the world. Their achievements are not just relics of the past, they are living legacies that continue to inform and inspire us today. Whether we're playing a game, telling a story, or marveling at the stars, we're participating in a tradition that began thousands of years ago in the land between the rivers. And in doing so, we honor the memory of the Mesopotamians, the pioneers of civilization who showed us what it means to be human.
As we near the conclusion of our exploration of Mesopotamia, it's important to acknowledge not only the grandeur of their contributions, but also the lessons their rise and fall offer us. Mesopotamia's legacy is a testament to human creativity, resilience, and ambition, but it also serves as a cautionary tale about the fragility of civilizations and the challenges of sustaining progress over time. In this final section, we'll examine the factors that led to the decline of Mesopotamian civilizations, reflect on the broader implications of their story, and consider how their achievements continue to shape our understanding of history and humanity. The decline of Mesopotamia. Despite its many achievements, Mesopotamia was not immune to the forces of change and disruption. Over the centuries, a combination of environmental, social, and political factors contributed to the decline of its once thriving cities and cultures. Environmental challenges. Mesopotamia's success was built on its ability to harness the power of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, but this reliance on irrigation came with risks. Over time, poor agricultural practices led to soil salinization, which reduced the fertility of the land and made farming increasingly difficult. Climate changes, including periods of drought and shifting river courses, further exacerbated these challenges. As the agricultural base eroded, so too did the economic and social stability of Mesopotamian societies. Political instability. Mesopotamia was a land of competing city-states and empires, and its history is marked by cycles of conquest and conflict. While these struggles often spurred innovation and cultural exchange, they also created instability and left cities vulnerable to outside invasions. The rise of powerful empires such as the Assyrians and Babylonians brought periods of unity, but these were often short-lived. Internal divisions and external pressures eventually weakened these empires, paving the way for new powers such as the Persians to take control. Invasions and conquests. Mesopotamia's location at the crossroads of the ancient world made it a target for invasions by neighboring peoples. The Hittites, Kassites, Elamites, and others all sought to claim the region's resources and strategic advantages. The final blow came with the rise of the Persian Empire, which absorbed Mesopotamia into its vast territory. While Persian rule brought stability and prosperity to the region, it also marked the end of Mesopotamia as an independent cultural and political entity. The lessons of Mesopotamia. The story of Mesopotamia's decline offers valuable insights into the challenges of building and sustaining a civilization. While their achievements were extraordinary, the Mesopotamians faced many of the same issues that continue to confront societies today. The importance of sustainability. Mesopotamia's environmental challenges highlight the need for sustainable resource management. Their experience with soil salinization and agricultural decline serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between human activity and the natural world. In an era of climate change and environmental degradation, the lessons of Mesopotamia are more relevant than ever. By studying their successes and failures, we can better understand how to create resilient and sustainable societies. The role of innovation. Mesopotamia's legacy demonstrates the transformative power of innovation. From writing and mathematics to law and governance, their achievements reshaped the world and laid the foundation for future progress. However, their story also underscores the importance of adapting to change. While the Mesopotamians were pioneers in many areas, their inability to address certain challenges, such as environmental degradation and political instability, ultimately contributed to their decline. The value of cultural exchange. Mesopotamia's position as a cultural crossroads allowed it to thrive as a center of trade, learning, and creativity. Their willingness to engage with other cultures and adopt new ideas was a key factor in their success. In a globalized world, their example reminds us of the power of collaboration and the benefits of embracing diversity. By learning from one another, we can build stronger, more interconnected societies. The enduring legacy of Mesopotamia. While the civilizations of Mesopotamia may have faded, their impact continues to resonate in countless ways. Their innovations in writing, science, law, and culture laid the groundwork for many of the institutions and practices we take for granted today. In literature and storytelling, the Epic of Gilgamesh remains one of the most celebrated works of world literature, offering timeless insights into the human condition. Its themes of friendship, mortality, and the search for meaning continue to inspire readers and writers around the world. In science and mathematics, Mesopotamian contributions to mathematics and astronomy remain foundational to our understanding of the natural world. Their base 60 system, for example, is still used in measuring time and angles, while their observations of the stars laid the groundwork for modern astronomy. In governance and law, the principles of justice and fairness enshrined in the Code of Hammurabi continue to influence legal systems around the world. The idea that laws should be written down and accessible to all is a cornerstone of democratic governance. In cultural practices, many of the games, musical instruments, and artistic traditions pioneered by the Mesopotamians have echoes in modern culture. Whether we're rolling dice, playing a harp, or admiring a piece of sculpture, we're participating in a tradition that began thousands of years ago in the land between the rivers. Final thoughts. The story of Mesopotamia is a story of human potential. It's a story of people who looked at the world around them and found ways to make it better, more meaningful, and more connected. It's a story of innovation, resilience, and creativity, a story that continues to inspire us today.
As we reflect on their achievements and challenges, we're reminded of the enduring power of culture, the importance of sustainability, and the value of collaboration. The Mesopotamians may be long gone, but their spirit lives on in every story we tell, every problem we solve, and every connection we make. So as we conclude our journey through the world of Mesopotamia, let's carry their legacy forward. Let's honor their memory by embracing curiosity, creativity, and compassion, by striving to build a world that reflects the best of what it means to be human.
As we move forward in our reflection on Mesopotamia, it is worth considering how the rediscovery of this ancient civilization has shaped our understanding of human history. The ruins of Mesopotamian cities lay buried for centuries, their achievements largely forgotten until the modern era. The rediscovery of sites such as Babylon, and Nineveh, along with the decipherment of cuneiform writing, has brought this lost world back to life and revealed its profound influence on the course of civilization. In this section, we'll explore the modern rediscovery of Mesopotamia, the role of archaeology in uncovering its secrets, and the ways in which this ancient civilization continues to captivate and inspire us today. The rediscovery of Mesopotamia. For much of history, knowledge of Mesopotamia was limited to references in ancient texts, such as the Bible and the writings of Greek and Roman historians. While these sources hinted at the grandeur of Mesopotamian civilization, the physical evidence of their achievements remained hidden beneath layers of earth and time. Early explorations. The rediscovery of Mesopotamia began in the 19th century, when European explorers and archaeologists started excavating sites in modern-day Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Among the most famous of these early explorers was Sir Austen Henry Layard, who uncovered the ruins of Nineveh, the ancient capital of the Assyrian Empire, in the 1840s. Layard's discoveries included monumental sculptures, intricate reliefs, and the remains of the library of Ashurbanipal, which contained thousands of cuneiform tablets. These findings provided the first concrete evidence of Mesopotamia's rich cultural and intellectual heritage. The decipherment of cuneiform writing. One of the most significant breakthroughs in the study of Mesopotamia was the decipherment of cuneiform writing. In the mid-19th century, scholars such as Henry Rawlinson and Edward Hincks worked to decode the inscriptions found on clay tablets and monuments. Their efforts revealed a wealth of information about Mesopotamian history, religion, science, and daily life. The translation of texts like the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Code of Hammurabi allowed modern readers to connect with the thoughts and experiences of people who lived thousands of years ago. Ongoing archaeological discoveries. Archaeological work in Mesopotamia has continued into the present day, with new discoveries shedding light on the complexity and diversity of its civilizations. From the ziggurat of to the Ishtar Gate of Babylon, these excavations have revealed the architectural, artistic, and technological achievements of the Mesopotamians. Advances in technology, such as satellite imaging and 3D scanning, have also allowed archaeologists to study sites in greater detail and uncover new insights into the lives of ancient Mesopotamians. Mesopotamia in modern culture. The rediscovery of Mesopotamia has not only enriched our understanding of history, but also inspired artists, writers, and thinkers in the modern era. The stories, symbols, and achievements of this ancient civilization continue to resonate in contemporary culture. Literature and film. The Epic of Gilgamesh, often regarded as the world's first great work of literature, has been reimagined in countless ways. Its themes of friendship, mortality, and the search for meaning have inspired novels, plays, and films, making it a timeless source of artistic inspiration. Mesopotamian mythology and history have also influenced popular culture, appearing in movies, television shows, and video games. From depictions of the Hanging Gardens of Babylon to stories of ancient gods and heroes, Mesopotamia remains a rich source of creative material.
Art and design. The art and architecture of Mesopotamia have inspired modern artists and designers who draw on its distinctive motifs and forms. The intricate patterns of Mesopotamian cylinder seals, for example, have influenced jewelry and textile design, while the monumental scale of ziggurats has inspired contemporary architecture. Education and scholarship. Mesopotamia continues to be a focus of academic study, with scholars exploring its history, culture, and influence on later civilizations. Its achievements are taught in schools and universities around the world, highlighting its role as the cradle of civilization. Reflections on Mesopotamia's legacy. The rediscovery of Mesopotamia has transformed our understanding of the ancient world and our place within it. By uncovering the achievements of this remarkable civilization, we have gained a deeper appreciation for the ingenuity, resilience, and creativity of our ancestors. A shared human heritage. Mesopotamia's story is not just the story of one civilization, it is a story that belongs to all of humanity. Its innovations in writing, science, and governance laid the foundation for many of the systems and institutions that define our world today. By studying Mesopotamia, we are reminded of our shared heritage and the interconnectedness of human history. The fragility of civilization. The decline of Mesopotamia serves as a powerful reminder of the challenges faced by all civilizations. Environmental changes, political instability, and external pressures can threaten even the most advanced societies. As we confront global challenges in the modern era, the lessons of Mesopotamia offer valuable insights into the importance of sustainability, adaptability, and collaboration. The enduring power of culture. Despite the passage of millennia, the culture of Mesopotamia continues to inspire and captivate us. Its stories, art, and ideas remind us of the enduring power of human creativity and the importance of preserving our cultural heritage for future generations. Final reflection. The journey through Mesopotamia is a journey through the origins of civilization itself. It is a story of innovation, resilience, and connection, a story that continues to shape our understanding of the past and our vision for the future. As we conclude our exploration, let us carry forward the lessons and legacy of Mesopotamia. Let us honor their achievements by embracing curiosity, creativity, and compassion, and by working together to build a world that reflects the best of what it means to be human. The land between the rivers may be long gone, but its spirit lives on. In every story we tell, every question we ask, and every step we take toward a brighter future.
In this final section, we will delve into the enduring questions and mysteries that continue to intrigue scholars and enthusiasts about Mesopotamia. Despite the wealth of knowledge we have gained from archaeological discoveries and historical research, there remain aspects of Mesopotamian civilization that are not fully understood. Exploring these mysteries not only deepens our appreciation for this ancient culture, but also highlights the ongoing nature of historical inquiry. Unresolved mysteries of Mesopotamia. The origins of writing. While it is widely accepted that Mesopotamia was one of the first places where writing was developed, the exact process by which cuneiform script evolved remains a subject of debate. Scholars continue to explore how pictographic symbols transformed into a complex system of writing and how this innovation spread to other regions. Questions remain about the social and cultural factors that drove the development of writing, as well as the roles played by different groups, such as scribes and merchants, in its evolution. The purpose of ziggurats. Ziggurats are among the most iconic structures of Mesopotamian architecture, yet their exact purpose and significance are still not fully understood. While it is believed that ziggurats served as temples or religious centers, the details of the rituals and ceremonies performed there remain elusive.
Some scholars suggest that ziggurats may have also served as administrative centers or symbols of political power, reflecting the dual role of religion and governance in Mesopotamian society. The fall of the Sumerians. The decline of the Sumerian civilization is another area of ongoing research and debate. While environmental factors such as soil salinization and climate change likely played a role, the precise combination of events that led to the fall of Sumer remains unclear. Understanding the Sumerians' decline can provide valuable insights into the vulnerabilities of ancient societies and the complex interplay of environmental, social, and political forces. The identity of the Gutians. The Gutians are often mentioned in Mesopotamian texts as invaders who contributed to the fall of the Akkadian Empire. However, little is known about their origins, culture, or the extent of their influence on Mesopotamian history. Archaeologists and historians continue to search for evidence that might shed light on the Gutians' identity and their interactions with other Mesopotamian peoples. The role of technology in Mesopotamian studies. Modern technology has revolutionized the study of Mesopotamia, providing new tools and methods for uncovering its secrets. From advanced imaging techniques to digital reconstructions, these innovations are helping scholars piece together the puzzle of Mesopotamian civilization. Satellite imaging and remote sensing. Satellite imaging and remote sensing technologies have allowed archaeologists to identify and map ancient sites that are difficult to access or buried beneath modern landscapes. These tools have revealed the extent of Mesopotamian cities and infrastructure, offering new insights into their urban planning and resource management. 3D modeling and reconstruction. Digital modeling and reconstruction techniques enable researchers to visualize and explore Mesopotamian architecture and artifacts in unprecedented detail. By creating accurate 3D models of sites like the Ziggurat of Ur or the Ishtar Gate, scholars can gain a better understanding of their construction and use. Digital humanities and data analysis. The digitization of cuneiform tablets and other artifacts has opened up new possibilities for data analysis and interpretation. Digital humanities projects allow researchers to collaborate across disciplines, using computational methods to analyze large data sets and uncover patterns in Mesopotamian texts and material culture. The future of Mesopotamian research. As we look to the future, the study of Mesopotamia continues to evolve, driven by new discoveries, technologies, and perspectives. Scholars remain committed to uncovering the mysteries of this ancient civilization and sharing its stories with the world. Interdisciplinary approaches. The complexity of Mesopotamian civilization requires an interdisciplinary approach, bringing together experts in archaeology, history, linguistics, anthropology, and other fields. By working collaboratively, researchers can gain a more holistic understanding of Mesopotamia and its impact on human history. Community engagement and education. Engaging with local communities and promoting education about Mesopotamia are essential for preserving its heritage and ensuring its continued relevance. Preservation and conservation. The preservation of Mesopotamian sites and artifacts is a critical priority, particularly in the face of threats such as conflict, looting, and environmental degradation. Efforts to protect and conserve these irreplaceable resources are essential for safeguarding Mesopotamia's legacy for future generations. Final reflection. Our journey through Mesopotamia has taken us from the dawn of civilization to the present day, exploring the achievements, challenges, and mysteries of this remarkable culture. As we conclude, we are reminded of the enduring power of history to connect us with our past and inspire us for the future. The story of Mesopotamia is a testament to the resilience and creativity of humanity, a story that continues to unfold as new discoveries and insights emerge. By honoring their legacy, we celebrate the spirit of innovation and collaboration that defines us as a species. As we look to the future, let us carry forward the lessons of Mesopotamia, embracing curiosity, compassion, and a commitment to building a better world for all. The land between the rivers may be long gone, but its spirit lives on, in every story we tell, every question we ask, and every step we take towards a brighter future.
Mesopotamian mythology, gods, myths, and religious practices. Mesopotamian mythology is one of the richest and most intricate systems of belief in the ancient world. It reflects the values, fears, and aspirations of the people who lived in the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Their myths and religious practices shaped their understanding of the cosmos, their society, and their place in the world. In this section, we'll explore the pantheon of Mesopotamian gods, the most famous myths, and the religious rituals and practices that defined their spiritual life. The pantheon of Mesopotamian gods. The Mesopotamians were polytheistic, worshipping a vast array of gods and goddesses who were believed to control every aspect of life and nature. These deities were often associated with specific cities, natural elements, or human activities. Major deities. On, the god of the sky and the supreme deity in the Sumerian pantheon. On was considered the father of the gods and the ruler of the heavens. Enlil, the god of wind, air, and storms, and one of the most powerful deities. Enlil was also associated with kingship and law. Enki, Ea, the god of water, wisdom, and creation. Enki was known for his cleverness and was often depicted as a benefactor of humanity. Inanna, Ishtar, the goddess of love, beauty, war, and fertility. Inanna was one of the most prominent deities and was associated with both passion and destruction. Marduk, the patron god of Babylon and a central figure in later Mesopotamian mythology. Marduk became the chief deity of the Babylonian pantheon after defeating the chaos monster Tiamat. Nana, Sin, the god of the moon, associated with timekeeping and navigation. Utu, Shamash, the god of the sun and justice. Utu was believed to illuminate the truth and ensure fairness. The divine hierarchy. The Mesopotamian gods were organized into a hierarchy with An at the top. Below him were powerful deities like Enlil and Enki, followed by a multitude of lesser gods who governed specific aspects of life, such as agriculture, trade, or craftsmanship. Personal gods. In addition to the major deities, Mesopotamians believed in personal gods who acted as protectors and intermediaries between humans and the divine. People would pray to their personal gods for guidance, protection, and blessings. Famous myths of Mesopotamia. Mesopotamian mythology is preserved in texts written on clay tablets, many of which were discovered in the libraries of ancient cities like Nineveh and Nippur. These stories provide insight into the beliefs and values of the Mesopotamians. The Epic of Gilgamesh. One of the oldest known works of literature, the Epic of Gilgamesh tells the story of Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, and his quest for immortality. Along the way, he befriends the wild man Enkidu, confronts the gods, and learns profound lessons about life, death, and the human condition. The Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth. This myth recounts the creation of the world and the rise of Marduk as the chief god. It begins with the primordial chaos represented by Tiamat and Apsu, and describes how Marduk defeats Tiamat to create the heavens and the earth. The Descent of Inanna. This myth tells the story of Inanna's journey to the underworld to visit her sister Ereshkigal, the queen of the dead.
Inanna is stripped of her power and killed, but is eventually revived and returns to the world of the living. The Atrahasis epic. This flood myth predates the biblical story of Noah and the ark. It describes how the gods created humans to work for them, but when humanity became too noisy, the gods decided to send a flood to destroy them. Atrahasis, a wise man, is warned by the god Enki and builds a boat to save himself and the animals. The myth of Etana. This story follows Etana, a king who seeks the plant of life to ensure the continuation of his dynasty. With the help of an eagle, he ascends to the heavens but faces challenges along the way. Religious practices and rituals. Religion was deeply integrated into every aspect of Mesopotamian life, from governance to agriculture. Temples were the centers of religious, economic, and social activity. Temples dedicated to specific gods were the focal points of Mesopotamian cities. They were often built atop ziggurats, massive stepped structures that symbolized a connection between the heavens and the earth. Priests and priestesses performed daily rituals, including offerings of food, drink, and incense, to honor the gods and ensure their favor. Festivals and ceremonies. Annual festivals, such as the Akitu, New Year festival in Babylon, celebrated the renewal of life and the reaffirmation of the king's divine mandate. These festivals often included processions, sacrifices, and reenactments of myths, such as Marduk's victory over Tiamat. Divination and omens. The Mesopotamians believed that the gods communicated their will through signs and omens. Divination practices included examining the movements of celestial bodies, examining the entrails of animals, and casting lots. Professional divinators played an important role in advising kings and predicting the outcomes of events. The role of the king. The king was seen as the representative of the gods on earth and was responsible for maintaining order and justice. Kings often built or restored temples to demonstrate their piety and ensure the gods' favor for their reign.
The pantheon of Mesopotamian gods was vast and complex, reflecting the diverse and interconnected cultures of the region. These gods and goddesses were deeply tied to natural forces, human activities, and societal structures. Each deity had specific attributes, powers, and responsibilities, and many were associated with particular cities or regions. Below is a closer look at the major gods, their roles, and their significance in Mesopotamian religion. 1. An, Anu, the sky god and supreme deity. Domain, the heavens and the overarching cosmic order. Role, An was the father of the gods and the ultimate authority in the divine hierarchy. He was believed to grant kingship and ensure the stability of the cosmos. Symbol, the horned crown, representing divine authority. Significance, although An was a central figure, he was more of a distant and passive deity, with his powers often delegated to other gods, like Enlil. 2. Enlil, god of wind, air, and storms. Domain, the atmosphere, storms, and breath of life. Role, Enlil was one of the most powerful gods and was often seen as the ruler of the earth. He controlled the weather and was associated with kingship and law. Symbol, a horned cap or scepter. Significance, Enlil was revered as the protector of humanity, but could also bring destruction through storms. His temple, the Ekur, was located in Nippur, which became a major religious center. 3. Enki, Ea, god of water, wisdom, and creation. Domain, freshwater, the Abzu, knowledge, magic, and craftsmanship. Role, Enki was a benevolent god who helped humanity by sharing knowledge and intervening in times of crisis. He was also a creator god who played a key role in the formation of the world and humans. Symbol: streams of water flowing from his shoulders, often with fish swimming in them. Significance: Enki was known for his cleverness and resourcefulness. He warned Ahasuerus of the Great Flood and instructed him to build a boat to save himself and the animals. 4. Inanna, Ishtar, goddess of love, war, and fertility. Domain: love, beauty, desire, war, and political power. Role: Inanna was a complex and multifaceted goddess, embodying both creation and destruction. She was a patron of love and fertility, but also a fierce warrior. Symbol: the 8-pointed star and the lion. Significance: Inanna was one of the most prominent deities in Mesopotamia and was worshipped across the region. Her myths, such as the Descent of Inanna, highlight her bold and fearless nature. 5. Marduk, chief god of Babylon. Domain: creation, order, and kingship. Role: Marduk rose to prominence during the Babylonian period, becoming the chief god of the pantheon. He defeated the chaos monster Tiamat and established order in the cosmos. Symbol: the spade and the dragon, Mushakus. Significance: Marduk's rise reflects the political and cultural dominance of Babylon. His story in the Enuma Elish served to legitimize Babylon's central role in Mesopotamian religion and politics. 6. Nana, Sin, god of the moon. Domain: the moon, timekeeping, and navigation. Role: Nana was associated with the cycles of the moon, which were crucial for agriculture and the calendar. He was also a protector of travelers. Symbol: the crescent moon. Significance: Nana's role in timekeeping made him a vital figure in Mesopotamian society. 7. Utu, Shamash, god of the sun and justice. Domain: the sun, truth, and justice. Role: Utu was seen as the judge of gods and men, ensuring fairness and exposing wrongdoing. He was also believed to illuminate the path for travelers and armies. Symbol: the sun disk with rays expanding outward. Significance: Utu's association with justice made him an important deity in Mesopotamian law, including the famous Code of Hammurabi, which invoked his name. 8. Ereshkigal, queen of the underworld. Domain: the land of the dead. Role: Ereshkigal ruled the underworld where the souls of the deceased resided. She was a stern and authoritative figure, often depicted as a counterpart to her sister Inanna. Symbol: the gate to the underworld. Significance: Ereshkigal's role in myths like the Descent of Inanna highlight the Mesopotamian view of death as a somber and inevitable part of life. 9. Ninurta, god of war and agriculture. Domain: war, hunting, and farming. Role: Ninurta was a warrior god who protected the land from chaos and brought order to agriculture. He was also associated with healing and medicine. Symbol: the plow and the mace. Significance: Ninurta was often depicted as a heroic figure who fought against demons and monsters to protect humanity. 10. Tiamat, the primordial chaos. Domain: chaos and the sea. Role: Tiamat was a primordial goddess who represented the chaotic waters of creation. In the Enuma Elish, she is defeated by Marduk, who uses her body to create the heavens and the earth. Symbol: the serpent or dragon. Significance: Tiamat symbolizes the forces of chaos that must be overcome to establish order, a theme central to Mesopotamian cosmology. The interconnectedness of the pantheon. The gods of Mesopotamia were not isolated figures, but were deeply interconnected through familial relationships, alliances, and rivalries. Many myths revolve around the interactions between these deities, reflecting the complexities of human relationships and societal structures. For example, Enlil and Enki often work together to shape the world and guide humanity. Inanna's bold actions often brought her into conflict with other gods, such as Ereshkigal and Enlil. The rise of Marduk as the chief god mirrors the political and cultural dominance of Babylon.
The role of the gods in Mesopotamian society. The gods of Mesopotamia were not just abstract figures of worship. They were deeply embedded in every aspect of life. From the structure of cities to the daily routines of individuals, the presence of the gods was constant and vital. Below, we'll explore how the gods influenced society, governance, and culture. 1. The gods as city patrons. Each Mesopotamian city-state was associated with a patron deity who was believed to protect and guide the city. The patron god or goddess was considered the ultimate authority over the city and its people, often symbolizing the city's identity and power. Examples of city patron deities: Inanna or Ishtar, Uruk, Marduk, Babylon, Enlil, Nippur, Nana, Sin, Ur, Ashur, Assur. The capital of the Assyrian Empire. The main temple of the city, often situated at its center or atop a ziggurat, was dedicated to the patron deity. These temples were not only places of worship, but also centers of political, economic, and social activity. 2. The gods as representative of the gods. In Mesopotamian society, kingship was seen as divinely ordained. The king was believed to be chosen by the gods to act as their representative on earth. This concept, known as the divine right of kings, gave rulers both religious and political authority. Duties of the king: building and maintaining temples to honor the gods, leading rituals and festivals to ensure divine favor, enforcing laws and justice, often invoking the gods' names, example, the Code of Hammurabi. Protecting the land and its people, often seen as fulfilling the will of the gods. Kings often depicted themselves in art and inscriptions as being in direct communication with the gods, emphasizing their divine connection and legitimacy. 3. The role of priests and priestesses. The priests and priestesses of Mesopotamia played a crucial role as intermediaries between the gods and humanity. They were responsible for maintaining the gods' favor through rituals, offerings, and prayers. Duties of priests and priestesses: conducting daily rituals, such as washing and dressing the statues of gods, offering food, drink, and incense to the gods, interpreting omens and performing divination to understand the gods' will, managing temple estates, which often included vast amounts of land, livestock, and workers. Priestesses, such as the high priestess of Nana in Ur, were particularly prominent in some religious roles. Enheduanna, the daughter of King Sargon of Akkad, was a high priestess and one of the earliest known poets in history. 4. Temples as centers of worship and power. Temples, or ziggurats, were not just places of worship, they were the heart of Mesopotamian cities. These massive structures symbolized the connection between the heavens and the earth, with the temple at the top serving as the dwelling place of the city's patron god. Structure of temples. Ziggurats were stepped pyramidal structures with a temple at the summit.
The temple housed a statue of the god, which was believed to be the physical embodiment of the deity. Surrounding the temple were courtyards, storage rooms, and workshops for temple staff. Economic role. Temples were major economic hubs, managing agricultural lands, trade, and production. They employed a large number of workers, including farmers, artisans, and scribes. 5. Festivals and religious celebrations. Religious festivals were a vital part of Mesopotamian life, bringing communities together to honor the gods and celebrate significant events. The Akitu Festival. The New Year festival celebrated in Babylon was one of the most important events. It reenacted the Enuma Elish, the Babylonian creation myth, and reaffirmed the king's divine mandate. Seasonal and agricultural festivals. Many festivals were tied to the agricultural calendar, marking events such as planting, harvesting, and the arrival of the rainy season. Processions and rituals. Festivals often included grand processions, sacrifices, music, and dances. The god statues were sometimes paraded through the streets to bless the city and its people. 6. Personal religion and household worship. While the grand temples and festivals were central to public religion, personal worship was also an important aspect of Mesopotamian spirituality. Individuals often maintained small household shrines to honor personal gods or ancestors. Personal gods. Each person was believed to have a personal god or goddess who acted as a protector and guide. People prayed to these deities for health, prosperity, and protection from harm. Offerings and rituals. Offerings of food, drink, and incense were made at household altars. Families also sought the help of priests for blessings and divination. 7. Divination and omens. The Mesopotamians believed that the gods communicated their will through signs and omens. Divination was a critical practice used to interpret these messages and guide decisions. Methods of divination. Ixtispacy. Examining the entrails of sacrificed animals, particularly the liver, for signs. Astrology. Observing the movements of celestial bodies to predict events. Dream interpretation. Believing that dreams were messages from the gods. Role in society. Divination was used to guide decisions in war, agriculture, and governance. Professional diviners often served as advisors to kings and temple officials. 8. The afterlife in Mesopotamian belief. The Mesopotamian view of the afterlife was somber and reflected their understanding of life and death. The underworld, ruled by Ereshkigal, was a dark and dreary place where souls resided after death. The underworld. The underworld was known as Kur or Irkala. It was a shadowy realm where the dead ate dust and lived a joyless existence. Burial practices. Proper burial was essential to ensure that a person's spirit could rest in the underworld. Funerary rituals included offerings of food and drink for the deceased. Legacy of the dead. Ancestors were honored through rituals and offerings to ensure their spirits remained at peace and continued to protect the living. Conclusion. The gods of Mesopotamia were more than just objects of worship. They were integral to the fabric of society, shaping everything from politics and law to art and daily life. Their stories and attributes reflected the hopes, fears, and struggles of the people who revered them, offering a glimpse into the worldview of one of history's most remarkable civilizations.